Hi, this is Randy Finney with the right side of the chart, and today is Friday, December 8th, 2017. Wanted to do an update on the equity markets and a couple other things that I'm watching now. Start out here with SOXX. If you caught the video on Wednesday, SOXX had hit this bull flag measured target, so I posted both in the trading room and in that video. I reversed my short positions, covered the shorts, went long. Looking for a bounce here, and also stated that my expectation was for a bounce in QQQ as well, because if the semis bounce, tech bounces, and if tech bounces, QQQ bounces. It's that simple. So we have that bounce so far. I'm doing this video in pre-market, and so this doesn't reflect today's open, but you can see if we zoom into the 60-minute chart. So there's the bounce off support, which happened yesterday. I had this minor trend line. We gapped above that, and then you can see some nice little flagging action. And my expectation remains as it was the other day for a move up, probably to this 170.42 level or back test this trend line here. And they came in roughly together yesterday. Now the trend line's a little bit above there, but this is so far textbook, right now on this bounce. If my expectation remains correct, which is a bounce and then a resumption of the downtrend, this is beautiful technical analysis. You have the initial leg up. There's A, B, C corrective wave, and you can see that's a bull flag right there that we had yesterday at the close. We're going to gap up today at the open. I'm looking at SOXX. It's traded as high as 170.85, which almost to the button when we gap up today will be right here, a back test of that trend line that I was looking for on the 60-minute chart. So, my original scenario from Wednesday remains, which is, move up to this level, followed by a reversal back down to at least this level again. I think it'll get taken out. We'll probably get another reaction if we get there. Maybe, maybe not. Let's see what happens. But as of now, that's what I'm looking for. And should we pop above that trend line, this is still very solid resistance, and I certainly cannot rule this out right here. A move up to that level. You can see a lot of reactions. Reactions here, here, here. Reactions back here, and that level comes in about 173.50 or so. So there it is. This is my expected reversal zone, anywhere from that, the back test of the trend line up until that 173.50-ish level. Anything above that, well, it's not going to completely wipe out it will certainly not negate the bearish technicals on the daily chart. We have that negative divergence, everything else. But remember, as I've stated, the most important thing is, and that's the 60-minute chart. That's where swing traders, active traders, we've had some, great trades. At least I've done very well in the semis recently there. But in the bigger picture here, if you're looking to put on a swing short, the semis are above trend, and I cannot emphasize that enough. Very, very well-defined trend line. A lot of reactions there. This is the initial tag of that trend line for the first time in months, and so therefore a reaction was likely. We've got that reaction, and until and unless this level goes, and I think it will go, like I said, this is the first time we've had negative divergence on the daily time frame. Big volume bars on the recent selling, even much larger than what we had back here. This was a correction without a divergent high, and that we just moved from the top of the channel down to the bottom there. That one was identified too. I think we caught that short, or at least the bulk of it now. So this is where we're at. We're down below the bottom of the channel, negative divergence. We'll watch how far this bounce goes. It's hard to say. I just gave you my estimates of how far it might go. But until and unless we take this trend line out, and we need to see a daily close or very impulsive break of it, and then those are my longer term targets. But right now, we're going to have a pop up today. Um, it could very well prove, and I think it will prove to be a good level to add back some short exposure, at least take off the longs. I took off my SOXL longs, which were in IRA accounts yesterday, and today I'll take my SOXX short. I'll cover that, and may re-enter in there. Still not an active trade because this is or an official trade, because this is active, very active swing trading. A lot of times by the time I get these posts or videos out, last time you heard I was short, then I'm long. These aren't really swing trade ideas, and that's most of what goes on right side of the chart. Swing trades, growth and income trades, which I'm going to get to here in a second. All right, so that's SOXX. And again, it was stated in Wednesday's video very clearly that, my expectation for a bounce in the semis was also turn out or carry over into a bounce in the Qs. So here's QQQ, or like I stated, there were 60-minute divergences put in. We had a first divergent low there. We got a nice pop. Second divergent low, nice pop again. And like I said, semis are a big part of tech. Tech is a very big part of QQQ. So these charts look almost identical. Not very, like just like the semis. There's that move up. There's a flag, and we're going to pop up today in the Qs. Pre-market right now, 155.16. Remember, I stated in that video, this is the uppermost level, where I'm expecting the bounce to go. Hopefully, it'll be contained here, and I'll keep the short case alive. And so you can see that resistance, or yeah, that resistance zone starts to come in around 155.61. And so far, I think we hit a high about 155.25 in pre-market. So I'm looking for maybe possibly a little upside at the open, and then a reversal. So that would be your ABC corrective wave if my primary scenario stays intact, um, and soon a reversal therefore. And of course, these are still levels to watch on the way down. But ultimately, we need to undercut these recent lows right here, and then zoom back out. That takes us down. If we get that, that will take us back down to my swing targets here, which are 155.20, little reaction there, and then a move down to 149.21. So that's what I'm looking for as of now. But if this bounce proves to be more, remember, this is powerful stuff. These 60-minute divergences, these are typically what I swing trade off of, to look for, turns that can last weeks, sometimes a couple months. And normally I'd be looking for a lot more, because the trend is bullish with a 60-minute divergent low, but we did just come off a very powerful divergent high. And what I'm looking for, kind of keeping things light right now, if my suspicions are correct, this bounce will get sold into, and it'll catch a lot of longs off guard, because I'm sure there's a lot of longs dip buyers that figure the correction's over and we're off to the races to new highs right now. And so we'll just have to watch it as it comes. Trend indicators, by the way, are still bearish on QQQ. We have, still we have strength in the SPY S&P 500, but starting to see some things slow down there and crack. But again, I'm watching the Qs. The Qs have led this market up for years now. They've been the leader. We're seeing finally seeing weakness. And for the first time, I just read an article a couple days ago in the journal that stated we've had some of the highest correlations among the sectors in the S&P 500. There's, I believe, 13 sectors within the S&P 500. Up until recently, we've had some of the highest correlations ever seen there, meaning all sectors were moving together in sync, and they were all pretty much rising for a while. However, as of recently, we've seen now the lowest correlation going all the way back to the dot-com, leading up to the dot-com bust. So take it for what it's worth, but it shows us now we've seen a lot of money coming out of technology, which has been the big leader, moving into financials, some into energy, and let me get to that kind of stuff. So there it is. There's my scenario. If we take out those highs, then that's going to call things into question, and we'll just have to watch and see how the charts develop. But as of now, trend indicators are bearish, and I'm viewing this as a counter trend bounce and what is likely to be more downside to come. So if that all changes, then I'll try to communicate my thoughts as soon as possible. Okay, let's talk energy for a second. Just recently I did a video, one of the updates, I talked about my expectations. I think that energy sector is poised for a pullback, crude's poised for a pullback. I'll make a case here. This is West Texas Intermediate crude, like crude oil, and you can see this is a daily chart. And what I'm showing here, you have a pretty nice uptrend line, not super well defined, but certainly valid uptrend line. And you can see right here we have divergence here. We have negative divergence right there on both the MACD as well as the RSI. And there's a minor uptrend line right here, and I'll show you this on a 60-minute chart of crude futures. So this is a daily chart. We've already broken that trend line. We're back testing it, but we need to see a break of this trend line. We could bounce here once again, maybe another bounce, maybe not, but if and when we break that trend line, I think that's going to be bearish, put some pressure on crude oil, which will put pressure obviously on the energy sector, which is a decent component of the S&P 500. So something to watch for. So there's my thoughts on crude. I'm going to roll into natural gas here in a second. I had a member of the site in the trading room inquire about natural gas and do I have any good natural, what are my thoughts and what about natural gas stocks? I started building a watch list. Grew. I have 50 items I put in that watch list last night. I spent hours going over all the natural gas companies I could find, even some utilities, master limited partnerships, even some ETFs. I've got chock full of trade ideas there. I see quite a few setting up. I see some trading ops. It'll probably require a whole separate video. And then I'll put out some of my favorites and I'll touch on those right now. So there may be an opportunity there in natural gas, although I'm near term bearish on crude. So let's get to the charts of natural gas. We'll just look at the crude 60-minute charts real quick here. Okay, this is a 60-minute chart of CL. These are crude futures. Pretty simple and straightforward. There's a nice uptrend line right there. You can see it. We had a divergent high right here. This really took the shape of a rising wedge pattern. So this was the high at this point. You can see the negative divergence down below. Prices fell from there and went on to breakdown. So we have a breakdown and so far as of right now, a back test. That chart I showed you yesterday. I'm sorry, the chart I just showed you on West Texas or intermediate crude, that's an end of day chart. That one's updated. It was updated at the close yesterday, so it doesn't reflect what's happened since then. They update that chart every day after the market closes. So here's what we're looking at, a back test on crude futures. And if that back test, if prices are rejected there, prices are probably headed lower in crude. And for those of you that prefer to trade ETFs, or in this case, ETN, here's USO 60-minute chart. You can see same bearish rising wedge. Remember, I'm doing this video. The market's about to open soon, but it hasn't yet. So you're going to see a pop up here and probably back test. So this is basically that same chart I just showed you on crude futures, except they're trading almost around the clock. So you already see the move up this morning. And there it is. So one could certainly take a shot at a short on USO at the open with a stop not too far above the highs, because if it goes out and takes out those recent highs, it's also going to come back above that trend line. So I think that's an objective looking short if you're looking for a trading op. There's leverage ETFs. You can trade the futures. I haven't updated this chart in a while, but here's some levels. This would be my first one around 1104. Let me clear that line out, show you what I think will happen here if you do take that trade. Move down to the $11 area, a little bounce there, and then ultimately move down to that 1060 area and then a bounce. So that's where I'd look for a swing short there. Okay, this is a weekly chart of natural gas. I already have it zoomed in. Let me see if I can zoom in a little more, try to fit it in here for you. Okay, so what I'm looking at, this goes back 10 years. There was and still is a potential head and shoulders pattern that I'm tracking. I've been tracking on natural gas. I'm going to say this, I'm not very crazy about it. And what you can see here, if you can make this out, is you have two left shoulders, so it's a complex head and shoulders pattern. Right shoulder there, possibly right shoulder there. I don't like the symmetry. Prices have been trading sideways for a while here, and head and shoulders patterns. They're typically they come after in a prolonged uptrend. Nat gas just bottomed recently back in early April, spring of 2016, and so relatively speaking, again to this 10-year chart, it's been in a bear market. So you typically don't see head and shoulders patterns. They're topping patterns. They don't come at the beginning of an uptrend. And you can see so far this is where nat gas has clearly bottomed. So I wanted to point it out. Now I did point out, and I probably shared this chart back a few months ago, earlier in the year. We did have negative divergence. I don't know if you can make it out again. I have this thing zoomed in. There's negative divergence right there on the RSI. And we had that, excuse me, we had a correction there, but we do have a pretty well-defined trend line. So whether this is a head and shoulders, now let's look at this on a daily time frame. And then where I'm going to go with this is a lot of the trade ideas. Again, as you know, had a member in the trading room inquire about the natural gas stocks. I was had a new member that sent me an email. He's interested in income investing, growth and income, and so that got me looking at the MLPs, master limited partnerships. A lot of those are in this energy sphere, whether it's oil or gas, natural gas. And again, I have right at this point in time 50 in my watch list, and I have about over a dozen of those flagged as potential trade ideas. I'll show you a few of those real quick, and we'll wrap this up. Okay, I'll start by saying this. We're zooming down before we get into those individual setups, and they may need a little work. I'm watching them cautiously bullish, but here's my quick take on natural gas. I do not have a strong opinion. Natural gas has been trading sideways for a good part of the year now. You can see this goes back to May or June. We've been trading sideways here between this level. So this is what I'm watching. We do have at this point, a fairly well-defined support level. You can see right around where we're at now, about the 275 level has contained the pullbacks in that range. And then you go back in time, and at least most recently, that 320 level there has contained the highs. So this is a sideways trading range. When that happens, a lot of my style to predict where prices are going to head be heading is to look for inflection points and or continuation patterns during an existing trend. But if you're looking for an inflection point, meaning a turning point, I like to identify these divergences. You can see here divergent high, correction, divergent high right there, correction, divergent low, a bounce. And that might not look like much, but a move up from 275 up to 320 is a very profitable move if you're trading natural gas futures. That's it. So right now, here's the story. We're at support. Again, you can see here when you zoom in, this would be that head and shoulders pattern I talked about, and it doesn't look so hot anymore with that, the fact, again, it didn't come after a prolonged uptrend. That would have been your head and shoulders there, but then we went into the sideways trading range, which kind of busted it up. So I'm putting the biggest weighting right now, watching this trading range. Which way did we break? If we can hold support here, that's bullish, even just for a move back up to the top of the range. Ultimately, whichever way we break, that will have might tell us if we're going a lot lower in natural gas or if we're going to go higher. You can see all the levels, all of these dotted lines are potential support and resistance levels. So that's that. Again, not a strong opinion. Otherwise, I'd be getting pretty aggressive with adding some of these ideas. And let me show you the trade ideas that I found, just a couple of them. And again, I'll continue to cull through that list and try to identify some of my favorites. But for those of you looking for some trade ideas, I'll show you these now, and these could work. There's a couple that look like they're ready to pop, or maybe offering objective entries now. I'll just start out with the ETFs. There's a couple now. These natural gas ETFs do a horrible job long term of tracking prices because they're trying to roll futures. There's all types of factors there. So they don't do a perfect job of tracking things. But here's GAZ. Yeah, when charting these, I like to use the non-leveraged ones. So there's GAZ. You can see a divergent low here, at least on the PPO. We have a divergent low. We were very oversold. So potential bottom in that one, and then UNG. You can see bullish divergence here. But again, I put a little more stock into the charts of natural gas futures than I do on these tracking ETNs. All right, let me show you a couple of the names to look at. I'll just run through the bottom, half dozen or so real quick on my the 50 or so stocks that I have on my list, and some of these are the ones I have flagged. MLPA, for those of you that like the relative safety and diversity of an ETF, this is a Global X MLP ETF, bullish falling wedge breakout back test. It has support around 914. It overshot it a little bit, but you can see the reactions back here. And this one starts to move higher. You can see the bullish divergence, positive divergence confirming the wedge. You can see a lot of pretty big spike in volume, an increase in volume lately. So again, for an income idea, I'm not sure what the yield is on this one, but you can look for a move up here at about that 1007 level. Maybe a little bit of, yeah, there's a little bit of resistance down there, reaction high about 1045, and maybe this one works its way up to 1060. And I'm going to fly through these quick. There's another, this is more thinly traded when you see these candlesticks, but there's another master limited partnership, MLPG, and MLPI. This is an ETN. You can see it's working its way down within this price channel. There's some divergences. I don't have it drawn out here, but you can make that out on the chart. Bullish divergence as it's falling here. So be on watch for a potential trend reversal there. MLPX, another one. Again, I don't have all the divergences drawn. I just started putting these charts together last night, and there were so many I need to continue to go through and pick out my favorites and annotate all the charts. NFG, National Fuel Gas Company, nice symmetrical triangle pattern here. Look for a break in either direction. Obviously, an upside break would be bullish. There's some highs to clear. There's some resistance levels along the way. Yield on this one looks like it's about 3%. So nothing crazy, but again, in a near zero rate environment, that's not bad. Uh, NGG, nice. This is a nice falling wedge pattern. This is the one out of all the natural gas utilities, most of those, and this makes sense. A lot of these natural gas utility companies are at or near 52-week highs, maybe even all-time highs or close to it, but they're all setting up in bearish rising wedges or dancing along trend line support negative divergence. So those look like shorts. Now my take is, or my guess is, natural gas prices have beat down their low, so those selling natural gas is profitable. So if we start to see natural gas prices move up, a lot of those utilities are going to fall. However, this is probably, I haven't even looked into the company. Usually PLC, usually those are um, British companies, but they can be anywhere around the world. So look for that. Look for a breakout here, regardless of what's going on. There's a nice divergence. Maybe it needs another low. You can see the PPO curling down here. Maybe another thrust down within the wedge. But if it breaks out, you can see all these potential price targets, and you have a nice dividend of about 4.9%. So this one I really like. Potential there. NWN, Northwest Natural Gas. See, this is another utility. You can see what I'm talking about a minute ago with the bearish rising wedges. Most of the utilities, especially those in the U.S., look like this. Bearish rising wedge patterns. They're up near highs, negative divergence. And so you look for a trend line break, and these can be shorts. OGS, another utility company. Beautiful trend line, negative divergence. Boom, 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 boom when that breaks. PXD, nothing much there. There's some lines. RRC, I really like this one. This is, you can see, nice defined, well-defined downtrend line, fairly well-defined, I should say. Quite a few, several reactions there. Strong bullish divergence, potential divergence, but it's still, this one's a little early. You don't want to jump in here yet. There's no signs of reversal whatsoever. It just broke down to either a new 52-week low or all-time low. I'm not sure where it is. Have to look back longer in time. And you can see here that the PPO is still pointing lower. So we don't have any type of buy signals here. This divergence is only what I call potential divergence. So maybe we go a little lower. Maybe prices go down here. Maybe that looks something like this. The PPO, we still have divergence in place. We still have it in the RSI, and then we reverse. Um, so look for a reversal candlestick. That would be an early sign for an entry. And then the next buy signal would come on a break above that downtrend line, and a lot of potential there. All right, next one up, and there's only a few more. I'll check that in a second. SR, Spire, there's again another utility. Story's the same. As I went through these charts, most of these utilities look ripe for a pullback. And again, with natural gas prices having traded sideways to down for a while, it just tells me that that's probably beneficial for these utility companies. So if natural gas prices start to rise, maybe not, whether that's the correlation there or not, these look set up for a drop soon, but they're not there yet. They're still above trend. This one I really like here, Southwest Energy, SWN, nice downtrend line. Look at that downtrend line, divergent low, bullish divergence like I like to see, breakout, and now back testing. And we're not only back testing the trend line from above, we're also back testing this horizontal support level here at 555. You can see the reactions right here. You see the reactions here. So if this back test is successful, um, again, I'd like to see a little more evidence, a little more firming up at the charts of natural gas. But as I showed you earlier in the video, natural gas is at support. So it's somewhat of a little bit of an aggressive entry, but it is still objective to take a shot here at support, dual support levels, trend line as well as price support, and try to swing it up to that 630 level and or these reaction highs. To firm up the bullish case, we need to break 630 again, and more importantly, these previous reaction highs. Then the next stop is 713. I expect a reaction there, and ultimately this one can work its way up here to that $9 area. So there's a lot of meat on the bone for this one, and I'd have to check. I'm not sure if they're paying a dividend. I don't see it here. That's the P. Yeah, it's not showing a dividend. I have to look into that. They may have cut their dividend or it may just not be showing here. Again, I still have a little work to do on these. So that's that. We'll leave it here. There's Total. WLL, don't see much there. There was a divergent low recently. Actually, should point that out, and it's been working its way up since. All right, I will go through these, share some of my favorites. I just gave you a couple that I like. So we may be a little early on this sector, maybe not, because again, natural gas is at support. It all depends on your trading style. If you're looking for some growth and income trade ideas, there's a few names. And again, if we're early, that's what a stop is there for, to protect you. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. All right, this has been Randy Finney with Right Side of the Chart. Hope you enjoyed it.